All right, so are you ready to dive in? Today we're asking that tough question, grifter or gifted? And this time, we're looking at Andrew Anglin, the guy behind the Daily Stormer, that notorious neo-Nazi website.
Yeah, he's a fascinating, a fascinating and troubling figure.
To say the least, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be going through court documents, tons of investigative journalism. We'll even hear Anglin in his own words.
Exactly. Got to see all sides.
Got to try to figure out, I mean, is he a true believer leading a movement or just some tech-savvy manipulator,
Yeah.
someone just exploiting a platform to get ahead?
Well, that's what this whole deep dive is about, right?
Exactly. And one thing that really jumps out is the contrast, I mean, the stark contrast between his early life and, well, where he ended up.
Oh, absolutely. It's like
Yeah.
night and day. We're talking about a guy who went from like being an anti-racist vegan to founding one of the most notorious hate sites on the entire internet.
Yeah, that's a real head-scratcher, right? I mean, he grew up in this, like, well-off suburb of Columbus, Ohio.
Right. Comfortable upbringing, at least on the surface.
Exactly. And early on, people described him as just your typical liberal teenager. Vegan, atheist, even had dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go from that to, well, to this?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are reports of him, experimenting with drugs in high school, becoming a little more erratic, prone to outbursts.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But even then, some of his classmates, they still remember him as this outspoken, liberal, the type to condemn racism.
Wow. It seems like maybe a big turning point was all the time he spent on these online message boards, especially 4chan. He even admitted, like straight up said that 4chan was more influential on me than anything.
Oh yeah, 4chan, that's a whole world in itself.
Right. And that's where he discovered this whole online community of nationalists. And, in his words, he realized that through this kind of online system, alienation could be replaced with community.
Yeah, that idea of finding belonging, community, especially online, it's powerful, but it can be really dangerous too.
For sure. And, it's there in those online spaces that he
Mhm.
seems to have developed this, like, admiration, I guess you'd call it, for Hitler, and this whole vision of a nationalist system.
Oh yeah, he went deep down that rabbit hole. Even said some pretty disturbing things about Hitler, like Hitler was aesthetically very cool. I don't think even the Jews could argue with that.
Ugh, that's rough. Really disturbing stuff. So after high school, he kind of drops off the radar for a while, travels extensively, like through Southeast Asia, Russia.
He was all over the place. Some sources even say he was living in the Philippines for a while.
Wow, so he's soaking up all these different cultures and ideologies, both online and offline. Sounds like this is where his worldview really starts to solidify.
Yeah, you could say that. And in 2012, after coming back to Ohio, he starts this website called, get this, Total Fascism.
No kidding, total fascism. I wonder what that was about.
Yeah, pretty on the nose, right? And he
Right.
basically just posted, essays on fascism.
Shocker. But I guess this is where he starts to develop his writing style, which is, well, it's definitely something. Provocative is one way to put it.
He definitely knows how to get a reaction. But total fascism was pretty short-lived. By 2013, he launches the Daily Stormer.
And that's when things really hit the fan.
Yeah, the Daily Stormer is where I think his understanding of internet culture really becomes clear. He knows how to use memes, shock value, those clickbait headlines, all that stuff to get attention.
Oh, yeah, he's a master of that. The site is infamous for its crude humor, racist imagery, all that just generally offensive content.
Yeah.
But the scary part is it's effective. Like, it gets clicks, it spreads his message, riles people up.
It does. And that raises the question, is that proof he's just a grifter, using these tactics to build platform?
Right? Is it all an act?
Or is it evidence of something else? Like, is he a gifted manipulator? Someone who just understands the internet, like, better than most?
Yeah. Maybe he's playing us all. It's a tough one to figure out.
That's what we're here for, right? To try and unravel that. And another piece of this puzzle is his early adoption of cryptocurrency. I mean, Anglin was on the Bitcoin bandwagon way back when.
Oh, yeah, he was ahead of the curve on that one.
For both ideological reasons and, as a way to avoid those traditional financial systems. He even called Bitcoin the currency of the alt-right.
Aha, wow, of course he did.
It makes him harder to track, harder to shut down, and it taps into that whole anti-establishment sentiment, that really resonates with his audience.
Yeah, he knows how to play to his base.
Yeah.
So we've got this financial savvy combined with this mastery of online tactics. It really makes it hard to tell, grifter versus gifted. Is he genuinely motivated by ideology, or is he just skillfully using it to make money and build a platform?
Exactly. That's the core question. And to dig into that a little deeper, I think we need to look at some specific incidents.
Yeah.
For example, in 2016, Anglin published this post calling for his followers to target this Jewish real estate agent in Montana named Tanya Gersh.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. Wasn't that a whole thing?
It was. He called it a troll storm, but it was really just a coordinated harassment campaign. Gersh and her family ended up getting hundreds of hateful and threatening messages.
That's awful. What did they say?
It was brutal. They got bombarded with anti-Semitic slurs, threats of violence, even had their personal information, like their address and stuff, posted online, all because Anglin decided to make them a target.
It's terrifying how easy it is to do that kind of stuff online and how much damage it can cause.
Absolutely. And because of that, the Southern Poverty Law Center filed a lawsuit against Anglin on Gersh's behalf.
Oh, wow. So this is getting serious.
Yeah, and that lawsuit really highlights the complexities of Anglin and how he operates. Like, he initially tried to just dodge the whole thing, claimed he wasn't subject to U.S. jurisdiction because he was living abroad.
Ah, so he's trying to play the system.
Exactly. But the judge ruled he had to come back to the U.S. and face the charges.
What did Anglin do?
Well, in true Anglin fashion, he refused to participate in the legal proceedings at all. And that led to a default judgment against him.
Wow, so he just ignored it.
Pretty much. And in 2019, he was ordered to pay Gersh over $14 million in damages.
$14 million. That's a hefty price tag.
It is. And that's just one of several lawsuits he's facing. So this defiance of the court, continuing to run the Daily Stormer, all while evading authorities, it really makes you think.
It does. Is it just blind ideology? Or is there some kind of calculated plan here?
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's going on in his head. But one thing's for sure, he's playing a dangerous game.
And he seems to be playing it pretty well.
Yeah, a little too well, maybe. Yeah, it's a dangerous game with high stakes for sure. I mean, think about it. He's managed to keep the Daily Stormer going, even with like a fragmented presence after being deplatformed from practically every web hosting service out there. It's pretty impressive when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. He's like, what's that saying? A cockroach. You can't kill them. They just keep coming back. But, all right, let's talk money. Because even a hateful website, needs cash to run. Where's the funding coming from? How does the Daily Stormer even stay afloat?
Well, remember we talked about how Anglin was into cryptocurrency super early on? That was huge for him, especially after the Charlottesville rally. That's when like Visa and MasterCard and all those traditional payment processors cut ties with him. He even bragged about how the Daily Stormer was funded only through Bitcoin for like 4 years straight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. He was basically operating outside the whole traditional banking system.
Sure.
The one he thinks is controlled by, well, his enemies. I mean, he even called Bitcoin the currency of the alt-right. It's kind of perfect for him when you think about it.
It is. And, it was a really savvy move, honestly. He really tapped into that whole distrust, that distrust of big institutions, global financial systems. It's brewing in a lot of circles online. And it's been crazy effective. Like, the data shows he's gotten millions in Bitcoin donations.
Millions. Seriously.
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah, that's kind of mind-blowing. But it makes you wonder about his followers, right?
Right.
Are they all true believers, like pouring their savings into his cause? Or is there something shadier going on? Like, what about foreign actors?
Foreign actors.
Yeah, could there be groups or even governments out there trying to, sow chaos and division by funding him?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's a valid concern. Yeah. And there is some evidence suggesting that, at least some of his funding is coming from outside the U.S.
Really?
Yeah. Like, when you analyze the blockchain transactions, you see money flowing into the Daily Stormer from cryptocurrency exchanges all over the world. It's not just coming from, one place. Huh. So it's not just like a bunch of, teenagers in their basements, right?
Right.
This is a global network, a network of individuals and groups, and who knows who else, all actively supporting this guy's brand of hate.
It's a sobering thought, and it really highlights, how global this whole white supremacist movement has become. But, it brings us back to that question, doesn't it? This financial success, the technical know-how, does it make him a grifter?
Right. Like, is he just a mastermind who's figured out how to, exploit a movement for profit?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he actually gifted? Someone who just found a way to turn hate into a business.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, on one hand, you see someone using technology, manipulating these financial systems all to his advantage. It's hard to ignore how calculated it all seems,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
But before we jump to conclusions, we should consider that even within the white supremacist movement, not everyone loves Anglin or his tactics?
Wait, really? I'm surprised.
Yeah, he's actually been criticized by other white nationalists. They say he's too provocative, too much, too over the top.
Too extreme for other white nationalists.
It's wild, right? They're worried that his whole shtick, like the extreme rhetoric and, that dark humor he uses, might actually scare away potential recruits, make the movement look bad.
So even in this community of hate, there's still a line. Wow.
Exactly. It shows you that even in a movement, one that seems so monolithic from the outside, there's actually a lot of diversity of thought, internal conflicts. It's more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess, nothing's ever black and white, even when you're talking about, neo-Nazis. But this whole thing with him being criticized, it does make you wonder, how influential is he really?
That's a good question.
Is he a major player, or is he more of a fringe figure? Like someone who's great at grabbing headlines, but not actually good at, mobilizing people. Maybe he's all bark and no bite.
Well, his legal troubles definitely suggest he's feeling some kind of pressure. I mean, there's still a warrant out for his arrest, right? He's been in hiding for years.
And the Daily Stormer has had its ups and downs. It's been deplatformed so many times, it seems like he can't maintain a steady presence online, no matter how hard he tries.
That's true. So maybe he's not as invincible as he wants everyone to think.
Yeah, maybe. But I gotta say, even if Anglin disappeared tomorrow, the ideas, the stuff he's helped spread, it'll stick around.
Oh, absolutely.
The internet never forgets.
Nope. And with the way the internet works, those ideas could easily find new champions, new platforms. It's like a hydra. You cut off one head, two more grow back.
Ugh, yeah, that's a scary thought. So I guess it brings us back to that question, grifter or gifted. If he went away, would his movement crumble? Would it mean he was the real driving force?
Or would it just adapt, find a new leader, and keep going? Would it mean he was just a symptom of a much bigger problem? And that's exactly why it's so important to understand how guys like Anglin operate, Their tactics, their motivations, it's not just about one guy. It's about recognizing and fighting these bigger forces of hate and extremism that he represents.
Right. We need to understand the whole picture. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. Anglin's past, his tactics, his finances, his legal issues, even the criticism he gets from his own side.
Yeah, we went pretty deep.
But what does this all mean for us, for the average person just trying to make sense of the world?
Well, for me, it really highlights how important media literacy is, being able to critically evaluate information, recognizing when someone's trying to manipulate you, trying to exploit you.
Yeah, especially now with social media. It's like algorithms are constantly feeding us stuff designed to trigger us, keep us hooked. And a lot of times that means we're being exposed to harmful stuff, extremist viewpoints, even if we don't want to be.
Yeah, it's a minefield out there. And it also makes it clear how important it is to push back against hate speech and bigotry anytime we see it, online, in our communities, wherever.
We can't just ignore it.
Yeah.
Silence, silence is complicity.
Exactly. We all have to do our part to create a more tolerant and inclusive world. Online, A&D, offline. And part of that is being able to tell the difference between a true visionary and a con artist, someone who's actually trying to make the world a better place and someone who's just looking out for themselves.
Which brings us right back to Andrew Anglin. Grifter, gifted, or maybe something in between.
It's definitely more nuanced than we'd like to admit.
It's murky, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I gotta say, after, spending all this time with Anglin, his life, his work, I still don't know. Grifter or gifted, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, there's no easy answer, is there? And I think that's part of what makes him so fascinating and, honestly, a little scary.
Yeah, exactly. Because on the one hand, you can't deny it. He's smart. He's articulate.
Oh, yeah, he knows how to talk.
And he's figured out how to use, humor, internet culture to reach young people, built this whole financial system around his website with cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say he's gifted, right?
Absolutely. He's got skills. But then there's the core of it all, the hate, that racist ideology. And that's where it gets messy. Because whether he believes it or not, whether he's a true believer or just playing the part, the impact is real.
Yeah, that's what gets me. The harassment campaign against Tanya Gersh and her family, they went through hell because of Anglin. It's proof that words have power. especially online.
Words can cause real harm, and Anglin's case, it's not unique, you know? We're seeing this explosion of online hate, extremism all over the world, and a lot of it uses the same playbook he perfected, the memes, the shock value, gaming the algorithms.
So how do we fight back? How do we stop someone like Anglin, gifted or grifter, from hurting people?
It's a tough question. Like we said, media literacy is key. We have to be smarter about what we read online, what we believe, be able to spot those manipulation tactics, look for different perspectives, don't just get stuck in one echo chamber.
And we can't stay silent. We got to challenge this stuff, the hate, the bigotry, wherever we see it. Online, offline, doesn't matter. Make it clear that it's not okay.
Exactly. We have to build a better world, right? Online, and offline. And part of that is being able to see the difference between a true visionary and a con artist. The people who want to make things better versus the people who just want to get ahead no matter the cost.
Which brings us back to square one, I guess.
Yeah.
Andrew Anglin, grifter, gifted. Something in between. I mean, could he be both? A true believer, A&D, a master manipulator, someone driven by ideology, A&D, exploiting it for his own gain.
I think so. Honestly, the best propagandists, the really effective ones, they usually believe what they're saying. It makes them more convincing, even if it's all built on hate.
That's kind of scary, isn't it? It makes it even harder to figure out what's real, what's manipulation.
It does. And that's what makes Anglin so interesting, so troubling. He's like this walking contradiction, this mix of charisma and controversy that makes him impossible to pin down. True believer, master manipulator. Who knows?
Maybe it's a little of both.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the scariest possibility of all.
It is. Because in the end, this isn't just about one guy, you know? It's about recognizing these tactics, these patterns, so we can protect ourselves, be more careful about the information we consume, who we choose to follow. Anyone can build a platform these days, right? Anyone can get followers. So it's more important than ever to be able to spot the difference, the real deal versus the con, the people actually trying to make the world a better place versus the ones just looking to cash in.
So what do you think? After hearing all this about Anglin, his tactics, his whole story, does it make him more dangerous? Or maybe, in the end, more vulnerable? We hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about. The complexities of online hate, the power of ideology, and that blurred line between grifter and gifted. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and yeah, keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time. Stay curious out there.